All right. My apologies, everyone. Well, hope my Wi-Fi holds out. Casey, I'm going to unmute you. That's why we were getting on a bit early to make sure we've got the bugs worked out.
Symptoms with just one pill once a day. Elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis have an increased risk of death or stroke. Call your doctor for changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults. Report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, which may mean a life-threatening reaction, or uncontrollable muscle weakness. Side effects may not appear for 6 weeks. Metabolic changes may occur. Movement dysfunction, restlessness, sleepiness, stomach issues are common signs. When bipolar depression overwhelms, that is how very attention. If you struggle with good sleep, you might think you were born with a slow metabolism. That's exactly what these people are. But the truth is, a slow metabolism is created by a condition called insulin resistance. Once you have insulin resistance, fat becomes trapped inside your body and it becomes very difficult to lose weight.
You record.
All right. We will be starting in a few minutes, but I'll go over everything for anybody. But if you can hear me and you are able to mute yourself, it's down in the bottom left. You'll see a little red go over your name. We're going to try that.
Allows you to step off the yo-yo.
And then we'll go over with everybody how this is going to work to get everybody to participate as we get started.
I can't get my video to work.
You can, down at the bottom, there's a start and stop video and next to the mute. And that should allow you to turn on your video. Oh. All right. Hello, everyone.
Yeah,
So, can you guys see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna get started in a minute, but we first I wanted to I'll leave this up here. What we're doing tonight is an experiment. It's something that we thought we maybe could do in person. Also, with all of the photos we have, we'd always said, oh, we could just toss up one of our collections of historic photos that we have slides of, like our Labourn collection, and just let it run through the night, invite people in and let people just kind of chat and talk about their memories and things like that. So we thought that that would lend itself really well to a virtual program. So we want you guys to be a part of this. I know you can see since I'm sharing my screen, you can only see a few of the people here, but if I were to click through, there's a lot of people on here. We have everybody entering the call on mute, but you can unmute yourself down in the left-hand screen of your screen. You should be able to mute and unmute yourself. But Casey, our senior curator who's going to monitor the chat, has posted some chat rules. You can talk amongst yourselves in the chat. Be respectful to each other, be kind, and don't use any words the FCC wouldn't. We are recording this for posterity, so that any new things we discover or learn about local history or about places, we'll have that information and we can share it with people. We thought that would be neat to have. It's kind of like a roundtable oral history or a rocking chair oral history that we're doing right here and now with everybody. So we hope that this can be a fun experience. If you're like me, I am not a time traveler. I am not even from Springfield originally, so I do not have memories of these pictures. My time does not go back that far, and even if I lived here, I haven't lived in Springfield for more than 15 years. So I rely on the research that we have in our library and archives, our wonderful volunteers, and all of the wonderful Facebook groups that are out there where people talk about things about local history. That's where I learn a lot about the past. So I hope you guys here on the call today will share your memories and stories and little tidbits that you know about the pictures that we're going to share. We've narrowed down the thousands of pictures we have to just a few. This is based on a presentation that Casey's done before. We had cut it down a lot so that we can try and keep time on this. So we hope you guys will share. Let me click through just some of our ground rules slides. So this is being recorded. And I've already gone over this. The chat function is down in the right-hand corner. You'll see on your screen. I'm not sure, Casey, if you could let me know where it is where we're on the screen share. Is it a different spot?
I'm sorry, what am I looking for?
The chat while we're on screen share, if we can tell people what it looks like when we're doing it this way, because it looks slightly different.
The chat window will pop out, so
Okay.
that's going to be floating over.
So you guys can still talk there, or if you have, you can unmute yourself to talk, or you can raise your hand or say something in the chat and let Casey know that you want to say something. And she'll be keeping up with that. And if there's anything that we missed, you can always email us or post it on the Facebook page. And we have it set so that the slides will automatically advance after 3 minutes. So we'll let you guys go. I know we've got staff members on here. Casey's our senior curator. I work in the library and archives. I miss all of my wonderful volunteers. And there are I think Virginia is probably on here. Roger, our CEO. So we're all here to kind of hear from you guys tonight. So we'll get started with this terrible example of social distancing. We're not going to tell you what these pictures are of. We hope some of you out there can jump in and let people know what this picture is of.
Looks like the 1940s.
State championship
That's the
basketball team,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 50s.
1950, Wayne Wiseman.
Yeah, that's the
Never
parade.
a sports fan.
That was Elwood Pisser's team. who was the head coach.
Yeah, that's right.
And our friend Bill Gatman was one of the star players on that team. If you remember, the Heritage Center had 10 years or so ago a reunion of that team.
Yes.
I think it was was it the 50th anniversary? They had as much as they could get together, the team and the cheerleaders, and there was a program. We actually recreated this scene with Marshmallow Peeps a few years ago. It was ridiculous and bright, but this is we a couple years ago we got donated a lot of the posters that they had from this parade, that part of Elwood Pitzer's collection. So we've got a box of those up in the archives now.
Did his son Dickie contribute some of the pictures as well?
That might have been who the donor was.
Yeah.
Virginia Wygant, our director of collections, she would remember that better. But I remember when we processed that collection when it came in. But it's a great picture of Myers Market there with the billboards on top. Which, does anyone know when they stopped having billboards on top of the building? I'm not sure. I've seen pictures from the 50s and early 60s that have them in it still.
What's the little building in the parking lot on the other side of?
That is a service station, I believe, there. And then this was the Francis Hotel that was rebuilt and reopened by 1950. There was a train that crashed into it in 1946, so the whole facade was replaced and reopened in 48. But that's where the library stands now. So.
There's no fountain in the Esplanade at that time.
No, they didn't bring the fountain back until, was it the 90s, Ed? I'm not
sure. I think it was before the 90s,
but it not quite the same as the original fountain that had been there, as big as that was.
Are you having fun? Huh?
All right, so I don't think you guys can hear the ding to show that we're changing, but yeah. So does anyone recognize which street we're on here?
High Street.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
I look at St. Raphael's. The Ohio Edison sign is up there.
And we've got Woolworths over here on the left.
I was asking you. I don't know.
Hey, folks, and if you can remember to keep yourselves muted unless you're talking to us, so we can't hear what's going on in the background where you are.
Ain't nothing going on here.
There's a few buildings in it, like the McAdams building is still standing there, and I know they're working on turning those into condos. But at this point, the Walgreens was there. Does anyone remember this building here on the other corner where
Is that a Honig's right there?
Honig's.
Yes.
It's Honig's. Yeah.
I say this is Clark State's Brinkman Center now. Completely new building, but I think this was called the Robbins Building, the one in the corner there. And I know there was music classes, the music teacher there. There were lots of different offices. I was told that the Girl Scout offices used to be in that building over there.
They were in the McAdams building.
Oh, other corner. Okay. And then you can
the
see
Regent Theater is right down the street, around the corner from Walgreens, with Jim's Sandwich Shop right down there as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was told that the streets went to one way sometime after 49. So that would place this picture sometime before that, because it's still two-way here.
Ohio Edison building up there, up through the 1960s, they were an appliance dealer. They sold appliances there in that building. My wife actually worked there when she first came to Springfield as a home economist for them.
Did they do home ec classes there? I think I've seen pictures of that.
She did Girl Scouts.
Oh, yeah.
Repeated the programs over and over and over for various Girl Scout troops And in the 1964 and 65, when we first met, she had an amazing machine that she would show them. It was called a microwave machine, and that was fascinated everybody. It was a big machine, and it was new. It's a new concept.
I can remember they demonstrated. They demonstrated that machine in our home ec class at Springfield High.
Yeah, she
And I
used
was
it with high schools.
astounded at how fast they could make a muffin rise. It's amazing.
Well, now
Water-
we've moved over a block here.
This I know well.
Main Street.
Main Street.
Now this is what, looking west.
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 So that we've still got Fairbanks building still standing and the Bushnell building, and this whole half of the block, actually this up to here is all still standing. We've lost the other side though. I think Anna yesterday knew exactly what year this car was. Anybody on the call know what this
Now,
one was?
don't tell, because this is everyone's favorite game with this picture, is identifying that car. We can get
Chevrolet.
make, model, and year.
It's a Chevy.
Looks like about 52.
I'm thinking maybe about a 62 or 63 Chevy Impala.
Mm.
Far off.
The ballpark.
So we think, yeah, this picture is either late 60s, possibly early 70s. We don't have it dated exactly in the collection. We probably could a little bit better if we checked all the signs here. That's usually how we do a lot of our dating with our pictures, is go through the directory using reverse lookup. Barbara does that a lot on the screen here. She scans most of the pictures that we use here and that you see in the paper are ones that she's been working through in our collection scanning. And she does a lot of the research when she's doing the pictures, trying to get better dates on them. So that helps a lot.
We've got Sharon Blazer says that she took sewing lessons at the Singer store.
Oh, right here. Oh, so that was a sewing store.
Yeah,
Like a Singer
machine.
sewing machine. I never even dawned on me that, oh, I see, it says fabrics.
The Singer sewing store became Brown's Bootery then later on in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
At what point did license plates stop being local to where they, like the SY, when did that go out of fashion?
Uh,
Is that what that means? Does that indicate where it's from?
Yes.
The license plate used to have the
I did not
number.
know that.
Letters would indicate the county or the area
Really?
from.
Yeah.
They did away with that.
So they weren't abbreviations though. So SY indicated Clark, or was that indicate something else? I mean, this is a student driver, obviously.
South Charleston, I think.
Really? So it was that specific.
You could get WU if you were a Wittenberg employee.
I had no idea that's how that worked.
Oh,
See, the things the things I'm learning today. I hope other people.
Let's remember, we're here to listen to you.
Yeah. So how about what street is this one here?
Maine.
Across the street.
And looking the other direction, isn't it? This looking east.
Yeah, you're looking east.
Is that the M&M there? That stone building that you can kind of see?
Yep, that's M&M.
Where's the Peanut Man?
Yeah.
Down there on the
Unfortunately, we don't have a good picture of the Peanut Man in our collection. We would love to have that. Oh yeah, there's the peanut shop there.
Do
And
they still own that Peanut Man at the new peanut shop?
they do have somebody with a yeah, so they occasionally, the Peanut Man will be out. And I don't know if we had a date on this one here. I don't believe it
That looks
did.
like the 60s, maybe. Early 60s.
We've got some later of Main Street, the core block, that we can date them from, because here you can see this one's closed and for lease, when almost everything on the block is closed and for lease, and we know that means it's before they started tearing it down, so that's how we can date those ones. a little bit better.
In the early 60s, they stopped using that 2-digit letters in front of the phone. So it would be before the 60s. See that FA?
Okay.
Fairfax.
So this is going to be before the 60s.
Thanks, Ed.
Yep, yeah, Fairfax, FA, yep.
Mhm. I remember the parking meter.
Yeah.
Remember those
Anyone-
things with the buses where you put in bus tokens? They look a lot like that.
Say, when did they last have parking meters downtown? Does anyone
It was
recall?
fairly late.
There was. Did they have them into the 80s and 90s?
Don't remember.
Remember them that late.
I was gone by then.
Say that I noticed the new parking garage downtown is almost, it looks pretty much finished. I just don't think they're opening it. Well, they don't want to encourage a whole bunch of people to go downtown right now at once. But yeah, it looks like it's done. So that'll be more parking.
Oh,
All right. How about this one? We actually know a pretty exact year on this one. Because you can read the billboard here. It's for Holiday on Ice at the Hobart Arena, and it has the dates on it if you zoom in really, really far. So amazingly, Hobart Arena, if you Google their schedule forever, they list every show they've ever had. And I could figure out what year the ice show was at Hobart Arena on that date. So we figured out that this was 1961. And this had previously been a undated photo.
like being an archaeologist.
Have you guys been downtown to see what they've done with the new market that's will eventually be open for real? I know that everything going on has kind of slowed them down a little bit, but they've redone the inside. We've got, I think the next picture might be that. Does anyone remember any of the stores in here?
Wasn't that originally the hotel?
Oh, way back.
Was it a hotel?
No, there were shops on that corner back in the
Yeah.
There's an early picture on the internet of that as a hotel. I think it was the Fountain Hotel, I believe.
I think that was the other side of the
No,
market.
if the old picture shows our building in the back.
Well, the Fountain Hotel was also the name of the Francis one that was on the other side where the library is now. This was
Well, I may have the wrong name, but it was a hotel at one time.
This was always a one-story building as far as back as I've ever seen a picture.
I know that there was before this in like the early 1900s. This was torn. That was torn down in 1915. There was a 2-story building there that was also commercial building. And then this opened in 1917, I believe.
The one thing I remember about that building is there was a deli in there called the Community Kitchen.
Mhm.
And my mom used to stop there from work and she would buy rotisserie chickens. I'd never seen anything like that. I thought that was the most wonderful things. And she bought bagels. I never heard of a bagel. And we had bagels and with the chicken. And that was such a big deal. And then Community Kitchen moved to Park Shopping Center. But it was always, as long as I can remember, called the Myers Market Building. So that's my little contribution.
I say, and that's what they've painted across the back now with the redone. So speaking of the redone, this is an interior shot from 1961. We've got Weigel's meat back there along the back. But this is from back in March when they did a soft opening, and you can see the floor. They've restored the parts that they could get back to. So there's strips of the floor throughout the building. If anyone's been there, and hopefully, eventually, we'll all be able to go there and check it out. These were all the food places that they were working on back then. I think they're nearly done with those, but they can't quite open everything up yet. But yeah, it's neat to compare all the windows and everything and how they've been able to restore it. If you guys have been in there more recently when it was United Senior Services, it's changed a lot on the inside.
We used to go down every Saturday with my mom and my aunt and uncle lived next door to the Mallings, and the Mallings had the cheese stand in the market building next door. But then we would, as a treat, my brother John and I would get to come over here, and my aunt would take us to lunch. And my brother loved apple pie. They made homemade pies, and he always got a piece of apple pie. Well, after having been there several times, we always seemed to have the same older woman as a waitress, and she just loved my brother. So he got a piece of free apple pie every time we were in there. He had to go to the hospital when he was 7 to have a little cyst taken off the back of his leg. And back then you stayed in the hospital. I can't remember her name. She was the nicest lady. She came to the hospital with a whole apple pie for my brother.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, wonderful memories.
Where was the meat market? I seem to remember that.
That was, Weagle's is back there.
That's on the back there. That's you can make out Weagle markets on the back. So that would be where the stage was last. Before they started redoing.
That was Joe Weagle's meat market.
Oh, that was Joe? Okay.
Yeah, I used to shop there. My sister would take me. I didn't have a car and I was young. And every week we would go down to the market and I'd always have to stop by Joe's.
Well, I know there were several Weagles who had meat stands between there and at the city market.
Joe's was in there, I know. That was it back in the early 60s that I shopped there.
I seem to remember a floor that was little black and white checkerboard pattern.
I think that's what they've restored in there is what it looks like now. Now we're back onto High Street. Capples was a furniture store. Did anybody get their furniture from there? I think I have on here. Oh no, looks like they closed in the 50s. So this must be, I think we thought this was probably sometime in the 40s.
Yeah, those cars are late 40s.
Yeah.
And this is the only building.
Ended up being a tot shop after a period of time in the 50s and 60s. Mr. Grunebaum owned. I believe so. And if you look at the top up on the top chimney to the right of the picture, I think today you'll still see the tot shop written across the top.
Along the side there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is a parking lot here.
On the back side of it.
And this is I was going to say, the Capples is the only standing building on that block. Yeah. Everything else is security, parking lot, and where Bancroft Hotel was.
Well, isn't the building next to Capel's still there? The one to the right of it, isn't that building still there?
Yeah, the Lagonda Club.
Well,
that's down the corner.
That's over a little bit further. So maybe this one is. I know that there is a parking lot in between there, but I'm not sure how far over it goes.
Yeah, one real small little slender thing.
That's such neat detail on that building. It's a shame, isn't it?
Especially this one. Look at the windows and carving there.
But that Lagonda Club is a mystery to me. It's been empty practically since the day it was built in 1910 or something. Hardly ever been anything in there.
Well, that was I think the Chamber of Commerce was there for a while, a long time. And I know that just in the last 10 years, they were trying to turn it into a nightclub. I think that Club Lagonda sign is still there that they had put up when they were trying to do that.
That's right.
In the 1950s, the Junior Achievement was housed there, up on the top floors.
Well, we found about when the Lagonda Club was built, they have the descriptions because it was a men's club and it was very, very fancy, all the finest everything there. But I think a lot of that got stripped out when the Chamber of Commerce moved in there.
Oh, there's Woolworths.
That was my mother's favorite store.
Yeah, that's the early 50s.
My dad had worked with Nationwide Insurance and was his office was right above the clock, right there on that angled corner.
Really?
And back in the would have been the early 60s to early 70s, maybe late 60s.
I say you can actually kind of make out a name there, but it looks like it
Yeah.
might be something Hall, Odin Hall or Den
Yeah, I'm
Hall.
not sure.
Maybe it says dentist. I'm not sure. That's hard to tell.
By the cars, it would have been before his office would have
We
been
actually, we know the date on this one. This is from 1954. It's from Houston Moore's collection. He did photos from the 30s through the 70s in our collection, and they're very well dated. So we do know this one.
Yeah. I got lost in Woolworths one time from my mother, and I cried and cried. And it was after that, my nephew and I both had those harnesses they put on kids at that time, and so that that wouldn't happen again. So, but it wasn't evasive. As a matter of fact, I see a lot of times preschoolers, if they take them out for a walk, they have them on them now. So.
They even had those back then. Yeah, I didn't know they had those.
Yeah, those was individuals. I mean, they had one on me and they had one on my nephew. There was just 1.5 years difference. And if I wasn't with Mom, I was with my sister Jane, and the nephew's the one. But I never will forget getting lost in there.
I remember the lunch counter there in the Woolworth building.
Yeah.
Really good sub sandwiches. It was a treat when I'd go down and spend some time with my dad in the office, and we'd go down there for lunch.
Oh, their milkshakes were terrific.
I worked at Kresge's for several years, and they had a lunch counter in there. So that was around the buildings down now. It was there on High Street.
We actually have the recipes from Kresge's in the archives. We have a whole box of all of their lunch counter recipes.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
We've scanned them all, and there's a list of them somewhere on our website. I'll have to share that.
Now, where are you located then, in Springfield, or what?
We're in the old City Marketplace, the Heritage Center now. But yeah, we've got
upstairs.
Yeah.
So I've gone up there to do some genealogy, and I need to go back. So I'm looking for a map of Springfield back around the early 1900s with the streets on it. And they tell me that you can get them, but I'm not sure where.
I say there are some online. We do have some of those in the archives. All right.
It has the streets listed then?
Yeah, and then the directories have those as well. All right, we've got, does anyone know what store this is?
Looks like Fulmer's.
Either Albert's or A&P, isn't it?
Albert's.
It's an A&P.
A&T.
An A&P. We're not sure which one though.
Wasn't there only one?
Yeah,
was down
there
where
it was where the overpass was put in down by Greenmont Cemetery. In that area.
Okay, good to know, because on here, when we researched this, it was further back on East Main, the only address we could find, but it was from much earlier. But we knew this picture had to be later. You can see the plaid stamps. So were those discount stamps? Well, how did the plaid stamps work?
When you got your groceries, you got so much per you got so many stamps for the amount of groceries, and then after you accumulate them, you put them in a little book, and then you could redeem them. And I can't remember what we could redeem them for, but
But I don't
there
remember
was
plaid. I remember S&H green stamps.
green stamps,
What
plaid
we-
stamps. I think there was a couple more. I don't know.
Where today's lobby shops is at the bottom of the overpass on the south
Yeah.
side. Isn't that where the A&P or Albers was?
That's where the AMP was.
The A&P was there. So if this is the A&P, that's where that was located. Where
My
the
dad-
lobby shops is today then.
My mom and dad shopped there, and I always had to sit down in the car and wait for them. And I thought they's never going to come out. Yeah, that's
So this building still stands.
yeah, but it's like you said, the lobby shops.
Right,
No, Albers was at Fountain in Columbia.
right. Near the bus stop, where the bus stop used to be.
Yeah, south of bus stop.
Okay, this one actually does have a date on it. It says it's 66, so that must be the location then. Is it the same building where the lobby shops are?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's good to know.
I'd like to see some of the prices.
Yeah.
It's hard to see 'em.
Wish we could zoom in on that, especially the Frozen's or Deli or whatever all this is here. That would be great.
We can check the paper for ads.
Yeah.
I wonder, the sign that we read backwards, I wonder if that says closed Sundays.
It looks like you can make that's an N there. I think it does say closed Sunday.
That was about the time there was controversy about being open, the blue laws and everything. About being open
Almost everything was closed on Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, they just didn't. You did your shopping during the week or Saturday.
How about this one here? Do you guys?
It looks like
Go to-
Memorial Hall.
No, it's one of the movie theaters, isn't it?
Oh, is it a movie theater?
Yeah.
I didn't
State
think.
or region, or I can't tell.
We have it labeled as state, but if anyone remembers any differently, do you guys remember going to movies on Saturday mornings?
I was not allowed because
I
we
remember
could
this
get
being the state
polio.
theater.
My mother's afraid we would get polio if we were in a crowd like that with kids. I remember
That's
that.
very timely. I say that's a whole lot of kids and no adult supervision in there. Cindy?
That was they would do special things for the patrol kids.
That's all right. I couldn't imagine what that would be like. I can exactly imagine what that would be like today. It must be, that's the loudest picture I've ever seen. I say, I'm trying to remember, because they've redone the inside of the state.
Yeah.
That's, the walls don't look like that on the side though, but this must have been, I think we'd found a picture from when they first opened, and that's why we thought that this was the right, that the walls used to look like that at one point. We had found a comparison picture. But
Did the state have two aisles going down the side, or I thought the state had just one down the middle, but they must have had two aisles. I know the region had two aisles.
I think the state had two aisles. I think.
Okay.
I say now they don't even have anything in there, do they? In the redone, I don't know. No, I don't think anyone's been in there in several years since they stopped doing shows in there, just in the last few years.
I don't see any African Americans unless they're way, way in the back.
There are some darker skinned kids here in the very front row, down in the right corner there.
Yeah.
So in the middle left as well. On the left side.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of movies there. That in the region.
Yeah.
Denise says schools went there for some special events, so this might be a school group we're looking at.
Yeah, I bet you it is. That's, you know, because normally you wouldn't have that many kids with no adults in the crowd, so that must be a school event.
I wonder if this could have been a special thing for the school patrol kids, because they look like 5th and 6th graders. And they would do a special thing for them at the end of the school year. So it could have been that. I don't know.
I remember people talking about picnics and stuff that they did for them at the end of the year. All right,
I
now
did.
we've got a
The big four.
big, yeah. This one's looking, this is a different view than a lot of the pictures we have of the big four. They're usually straight on to the building, but this one is further down from on Washington looking towards it. But it's a really neat picture of the tracks there.
I remember taking a trip with my dad from there to Cincinnati, just be the Cincinnati Reds.
Right.
And at Crosley Field.
It was a Lawrence Haddock's day. 2 Clark County boys pitching. It was a doubleheader.
Yeah.
Oh, we have pictures of that.
Yeah, we did that as well.
That's so. And then did the train normally go there, or did they do it for special occasions like that?
Just special occasions. There's 9 tracks across there, I believe, at one time. And I think there's probably 9 there if we looked at it real carefully, but obviously only 1 today. At one point in time, there were 9 going across that whole area. Doesn't look like there's 9 there, but there were.
I remember dropping my dad off to go on some business trips and picking him up later in the day.
What is that archway in the center of the picture?
I think that was a pedestrian overpass. Could be wrong.
They could walk across? Huh, I didn't.
I don't know.
I wish we had, we don't have too many good, usually most of the pictures are straight on or they're postcards. So we don't have a lot of good detailed pictures. For those of us that don't remember what it looked like, to see how it was laid out over there. There's a really great one though that that shows from where you can see exactly where the overpass goes in, and you can see the hotel that used to be next to it and everything too. That kind of gives you a better sense of how the overpass knocked it all out for people like me who have a hard time imagining it, because it's so different looking down
This
that
would
street
be
now.
early 50s, I think.
I think
switching over to diesel, and then those diesel electric locomotives, and then those cars are about early 50s, early to mid 50s.
We actually know that this one's from 56. I think this one is also from the Moore's collection. So we have the date on this one.
I scanned some photos that were where there was a separate Pennsylvania station right down the street. I don't remember that myself.
That was, I just put that one in the paper the other day, and it took me forever to figure out where it was. It's where the Kuss is now, like exactly where the Kuss is now. Was where the Pennsylvania one was. It was just a little bit further down.
Right.
Yeah, I did that once.
Ice skating?
I knew that, I learned then that my ankles would not hold me up on ice skates.
The Snyder Park, I assume.
Yeah.
Snyder Park's Lagoon skating. Off to the left, the pictures are this where the little shelter house is still there with the little balcony or the top area on top. You always would have a campfire down there as well to keep you warm.
I grew up on Overlook Drive, so I kind of overlooked this area. And all my friends would come to my house, and then we'd go down and skate, and then we'd come back to my house and warm up, and then we'd go back and skate again. So my childhood has fond memories of this area.
Susie, where did you live on Overlook?
Just the second house from the corner on Overlook and Snyder Street.
Oh my gosh, my aunt, I have spent lots of time on Overlook. My mother's oldest sister and her husband lived on Overlook at it was 1810, and then they changed and it became 1815, and we would do the same thing.
Who was
my brother John and I would go down and skate.
What was your aunt's name?
It was Olive and Cloyd Caldwell.
Oh my gosh, Olive and Cloyd Caldwell. I remember them. They were the nicest people.
And they never had children.
No.
And she was 14 years older than my mother. So we were, kind of my brother John and my brother Dave. And then I have a sister, Martha, that's way she's 14 years younger than I am, but we spent lots and lots of time at my
Well, I remember
aunt's.
Floyd used to always walk to the bus every
Yes.
day, and when I got to be a little bit older and not scared of everybody, he would always say hi to me or stop and buy lemonade or whatever the heck I was doing down there. So I lived at 1872.
Okay. Yep.
They changed it and it became 1871, but it was the second house from the corner there on the corner of
Yep, I know right where it was, because us country relatives would come into the city on Saturday nights and stay all night with my aunt and uncle, and then we would walk down to meet my uncle when he got off the bus there at the corner.
I'm so glad to know that they were the nicest
Well, thank
people.
you.
They were
We
nice.
missed them. Then when my brother got older and was involved in the tennis program at the park, he would go up to my aunt and uncle's for lunch, and he would whistle. He had a piercing whistle, and he would whistle, and my aunt would know he was coming. So by the time he would walk up there, she'd have his lunch ready.
That's another one we didn't put a picture in here, but we've got a great picture of the tennis program at the park with all the kids out on the tennis court in their white. This one we went from a winter scene to a summer scene. Does anyone know which pool this is?
The Springfield Springs, maybe?
Yep.
Yep. Springfield Springs, coldest water in the county.
Did you ever go to Muzzy's Lake?
Where was that at?
Up toward Urbana somewhere. And it was just an old gravel pit.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, was it cold. Woo-hoo.
Well, this one was on 40.
East National.
Yeah.
Muzzy's Lake is still there. I've never seen it. There's a lot on the others off of 55. There's a lot of newer homes built there, and they're expensive homes, and Muzzy's Lake is right behind them.
I used to go to the Olympic, which was on Bechtel there.
That they just took that out like not too long ago. It was still back there for the longest time.
Because I was a West End kid, so for a while.
I know there was the other one on Rogers Beach, or I think it had multiple names, but that was over on Laganda.
Lakewood Beach somewhere.
I think that was that in Urbana? I think that was further.
That was
no.
Champaign County line.
Okay.
Up Upper Valley Pike.
Yeah, but now it's water.
Yeah.
It's still there, but there's a company that transports water from the spring there, and they go sell it. There's just a bunch of them there all the time.
Yeah, a lot of the bottled water you drink comes out of there.
Yeah.
Comes out of the springs.
Yeah. I can remember one time going in one of those buildings, and I think it was that one where we'd go in and look, there'd be a pipe coming through the wall and the water would be coming out. So I'm sure that's the building it was.
Yeah, Lakewood is where the Beach Boys played when they were just starting out.
Now, what was the name of the club up there? I know that Dick Hatfield's done talk about that.
Cabanas Club.
Cabanas Club.
Yeah. A lot of big name entertainers.
Oh, the Coconut Lounge, but it could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 40s, it was like the Cabanas Club, and they had a lot of big bands there.
Yeah.
At Memorial Hall.
Or somebody like that. They had a lot of big names.
Does anyone know what this is? Another one, a picture where we know it's Memorial Hall, obviously.
Yep.
It's undated though, and we don't know what's going on here. John Stokes on our staff the other day, when he looked at this, he said that the symphony used to play shows for the kids.
We used to walk from Gray Hill and Clark. We used to walk over there for the symphony.
Well, you can see there's buses over here, so I think that's a pretty good theory for what this picture is for. I've never been able to figure it out.
Yeah, I would say that would be in the 50s, and they used to have the kids all would go to the symphony there, at least once a year.
Yeah, we see magic shows there as well. Big Time Wrestling was
Big
there.
time wrestling, yeah, I used to go there for big time wrestling.
Yeah. We used to go to the symphony concerts even in the 60s for a while. So.
Yeah, my dad played violin in the symphony when it started up. For a
Dick
year or
Clark
two.
and his Cavalcade of Stars appeared there also in the early 60s. That was the first time I ever saw the Supremes. And they were the skinniest girls I had ever seen in my entire life, especially Diana Ross. She was the skinniest girl I had ever seen.
And they were there in
They were
Memorial
there,
Hall?
and Dick Clark was there, and Bobby Freeman, who did the swim, and it was like a rock and roll show, you know, back such as they were back in the early 60s.
Sharon remembers walking from St. Ray's to the symphony and graduations there.
Oh, yes. I saw Tiny Tim there in the early 80s.
Well, we were there until the early 80s.
Yeah, that's true.
Until they condemned the building. I think Virginia is on this. She remembers the. She'd be able to tell a story about moving out of there. I say we were this picture. Nothing in this picture is still standing today. But this chunk over here just finished coming down a couple weeks ago. The Kroll Collier building. That's a whole other talk we decided we could do. We have so many Kroll Collier pictures. We thought that could be a whole other day.
Oh, county fair. Yeah.
That ride is still there and terrifying.
World's most exciting ride, it says.
A roundup.
Oh, yeah. Imagine wearing a dress to go to the fair. Good grief.
This is 58. Ed, do you remember was it 47 when the fair opened back up, started out there where it is now?
48, I believe.
48, okay.
Yeah.
So
Hangars they're gone now, but it was in airport. If you look at it from the air, you still see the crossing runways. Where the hub in the middle is, that's where the runways crossed. And back then, the only permanent buildings there in 48 were the old hangars that they're now gone. They're right by the entrance to B. And then in 1952, they passed a levy and built the youth building, mercantile building, arts and crafts, and annex with a tax levy that they put in place.
Our Girl Scout troop used to go out there and spend the whole week. We would have a child care tent and sleep overnight in bedrolls.
Virginia Pendleton was the leader of that. In 1981, when I was the manager of it.
Oh.
That was the lady I worked with.
I say, well, it's yet to be seen how the fair will be this year. If it'll be, I know they're still wanting to hoping to be able to move forward at the end of July.
At the end of the school year, in your grade card, there was always a free ticket for Kids Day. And I think it was on Wednesdays. Yeah, it was on Wednesdays, and kids could get in free, and you could ride for free. I think ride the rides for free or half price or whatever they were. But they did that even until I graduated from high school. So
it's still on Wednesdays. And
okay.
Kids aren't free. Their kids are free, but the rides are I think half off on Wednesdays.
Oh, okay.
That's when we take our kids. So, and they ride this terrifying ride there. So.
Merry-go-round terrified me enough.
That's over here. It looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Well, I think this about wraps up the pictures we have. Is there anything in the chat, Casey, that we want to go back and.
I'm trying to remember which ones I read.
I saw someone saw New Kids on the Block there. I have heard some great stories about New Kids on the Block when they came here in the.
Oh, I took my daughter to that.
I would have loved to have seen that. I think I remember running across the article in the archives and saying, "Oh, New Kids on the Block was here."
Yeah, that was my oldest daughter really liked them, and they were pretty new group, and so we took them out there, and it was wild. It was pretty crazy. A lot of screaming girls.
A lot of people passed out due to the heat. They had to set up triage, and the medics set up triage in the youth building.
Really?
And then the fire department finally came, and we took them up on a lift, and they were spraying water because the kids came at 8 o'clock in the morning and began crowding in for a 6 or 7 o'clock at night show, and they were just passing out.
Oh, now you can see everybody. I see in the chat, Patty mentioned that she still has her skates. I'm sure Patty will end up bringing those to us. Patty's one of our volunteers. She's been bringing us lots of stuff.
We had a private exchange about that. Those should be coming at some point.
We would love to see those.
And Denise was saying, I believe that was the picture of High Street, and we were talking about the meters, that she thinks it was still metered in the early 80s. So.
People talking about the bonfires out at the park or at Snyder Park. I've had people ask about why that. Well, I think it was the reservoir going in changed the freeze patterns, so the water will never freeze as solidly as it did back then. But I know that they actually have the lagoon. They're doing work in the lagoon right now. National Trail is, so I think it might be drained, or I saw a post about it the other day that they were working on it. So does anybody have anything else that they would like to share? It was hard to narrow down these pictures. We could talk about lots of different topics. We've been kind of brainstorming things that we could do with people like this. We know that there's we could do like single topic things. We talked about doing a trivia night of historic trivia, and we would have the questions up on slides, and you guys could just write down your answers, or and it would just be for fun. So those are some things that we could do. But I know we could do pictures. We could do pictures for days. We could do pictures for months. We
can do this every week.
We can do this. We can do this every night. No, we can't do this every night. I can't do that.
You mentioned the reservoir. So I remember as a kid, before the reservoir was there used to be an old golf course building, and my dad used to take me out there, and some friends of his had RC planes, and that used to be actually an RC plane little airport where the reservoir sits today. So it's kind of neat to think back. If you get down there today, you can't imagine it not being there, but it'd be neat to see if anybody has any pictures of that old property prior to the reservoir being there.
We have some pictures that show, and we had I remember a few years ago somebody had they lived there, and they drew us a map of all of the properties that were there of their neighbors, because they were right where the reservoir took out all of those, and we had never had a good representation of what was there. Even the maps that we had didn't quite show them, and she gave us some other materials that kind of helped with that. But people always ask for the Snoopy picture on the spillway. We do not have a Snoopy picture. I wish someday somebody out there has a picture of the Snoopy, and hopefully they will give it to us, because people are always asking for it. That was
Do you have any
on the
pictures
spillway.
of the children's zoo that was there before they built it?
Yeah, that was down in the old Reed Park.
Yeah, but it went away because they put the reservoir across there, and they had to get rid of the children's.
I don't think
petting
we don't have pictures, but we have newspaper articles that we've seen. And I know Bob Holsizer I don't know if Bob and Flossie are on this call, but they, Bob he went through the papers one time trying to find everything he could on the zoo, and now we have a whole folder on the opening of the zoo and everything. And that dump out there on, was that South Yellow Springs? On the left, there's a giant hippo.
Oh,
That I was told that was from the zoo.
That's on Dayton Road.
And they have that little lion head trash can thing at the Rotary Park, the new Rotary playground at Snyder Park that was from the zoo as well. But nothing.
I
nothing
grew
in
up
our
on
collection.
Buck Creek Lane, which is the entrance to the reservoir, and we moved there in January of '59. So we were there while there was still a golf course, and there was a trap shooting place right there next to the golf course. Well, once they closed it, there were money issues with the Corps of Army Engineers, so they didn't go through and finish it right away. So we used to go down there, and again, my brother and I, and we'd hunt for golf balls and clay pigeons. And we had a good friend of my father's from the Ohio Edison that worked at that was out at the Clark County Sportsman's Club, and we would sell him those clay pigeons for like 2 cents a piece, and we thought that was, lots of money if we found them not broken, because then Irv could use them. And we sold lots of golf balls that we found, because we were always down in the stream, and there were lots of golf balls in the stream for some reason. I don't know why, but anyway, we had lots of fun playing down there once the golf course closed and before they flooded it all.
So since you lived so close, can you tell me the homes and things that were there when they flooded it? Did they leave all the homes there and just flood over everything?
No, some of they took out some of the homes.
Yeah, I know.
But not very many, because if you went north on Buck Creek Lane, like past where the reservoir is now, down a big hill, and to the right was a huge gravel pit. So there weren't a lot of homes on down there. It was mostly land. It was a lot of it was Paul Deere land, land that Mr. Deere owned. And like I said, there was a huge sand and gravel pit down there. So we had these big gravel trucks running up and down our county road every day, 49 times a day, which is why we were never allowed out on the road to ride our bicycles until after they closed the road.
I know the person that drew the map for us, theirs got moved. And the houses around them were moved as well.
My father-in-law grew up, he's 99 years old, he's in the Masonic home. He grew up on a large dairy farm right next to the Crabbles. And it was just 6 months ago, I think I was talking to him. Somehow the Crable house came up in our conversation, and he says, "Oh, I knew the Crable." He says, we used to go there and eat." He said, "We used to go, and they would come over and eat." And that was, well, he was born in 1920. So he knew the family that was there. I don't know if that was Crable or not, but at that Crable house. So he grew up, I think the dairy farm that he grew up on is mostly or totally underwater.
There was a man named Ralph Baumgartner that owned a large dairy that they took it from him there by Mr. Deere's land. Baumgartner, B-A-U-M-G-A-R-D-N-E-R, was a large dairy. I'll bet that's the one they're talking about.
Well, yeah, that wasn't their name, but he probably knew them. Okay, he probably knew them. But he's got a picture of the barn. He's got a great big photograph of the barn that was there on that farm. And then later he moved out when my wife grew up on Old Columbus Road, not too far from there.
Well, if anyone has anything else they would like to share now, we'll definitely try and do something like this again. This was fun, and it was fun to hear your guys' stories. And and this kind of stuff always helps us go back and add more information to stuff that we've got in our collection, and know more about our local history. If you guys have any ideas for future programs, let us know. We like to do some fun things like this. We thought maybe so like a show and tell of people's collections until we're all able to be back together again in our place. We miss everyone. We miss all our volunteers. We miss people being able to come visit us, but we hope that, we'll all be together again. But we know we've got stuff that we can do, so we can still share stuff and connect with you guys and have some fun. So yeah, if you guys have ideas, we are happy to have them, and we're happy you guys could join us.
Really fun.
Thanks for doing this. Thank you.
Does anybody have any knowledge of Governor Bushnell? Anything about him?
Oh, we have many boxes on Governor Bushnell if you would like to learn more about him.
Well, it was always said in the family that he sponsored my dad's dad to come over from Germany, and Grandpa was a tailor, and he was supposed to be Governor Bushnell's tailor, and a couple of the girls in the family worked in there as maids. And I've never been able to find out anything about it, but it's always been said in the family that was, how Grandpa got here from Germany.
Well, I'll put our contact email on our Facebook for you can send an email, and that's something that sounds like we might be able to figure something out with our naturalization records or our city directories. We could look for his name and see if we can connect him. So
yeah, Grandpa was studying to be a priest in Germany, and I thought because we're the hospital, the new hospital, not the regional, but the doctor's hospital. They have the building right next door that has labs in it and everything. And Grandpa, I got at one time an address for him, and it was right there on that corner. And I thought, well, he probably went to St. John's Church because he was Lutheran, and they don't have any records. So I don't know. I'm sure that being a priest or studying to be a priest and coming over here, that he probably continued his religious practices, and not at St. John's, but it was the older one, and they didn't, unless they just didn't have any records of it. So, and then one more question I have, then I'll quit. Does anybody have any idea of graves? There was always said that my one uncle, he was a baby, was buried in Greenmont Cemetery, and they don't have any record of it. And so that one time, I think I read something there at the Heritage Center that he was buried with Grandma, and she's in Ferncliff. So I don't know, is there any records for the people that were buried in Greenmont, that for where they where they cut it off, the part of the ground there, and they moved some graves?
We do have cards in the archives that and if they're moved, it often says on the card moved to. So that's something we could look up the name you're looking for, and hopefully it would say moved to, because we also have the Ferncliff records as well.
Yeah, Ferncliff, I asked there, and I asked them if they have any records. We put his name in, and it didn't come up. And I said, well, I wonder if by it said he was buried with Grandma, maybe he was buried in the same grave, because they did that years and years ago with infants, with the mother. But I don't know whether, I always try to figure out where Uncle Peter is, and I assume he's there at Ferncliff with Grandma, but they don't have any record of it. So, but so anyhow, there's a lot of graves that were moved there from Greenmont Cemetery. They were moved, to put there up towards High Street, and I don't know. I read one time where whoever it was that lived there in that is it the Westcott building?
Yeah.
That whoever it was years and years and years and years ago didn't like the view of looking across there, and that's when they cut it out by his request, and that's when the graves were moved. So
yeah, Greenmont's a tough one.
Yeah, there's no records I haven't been able to find any records on it. There's probably records, but I haven't been able to find them.
I know we have some, and the public library has some as well, but they're not complete. So yeah, that does make it difficult when you're looking for graves in that area. So
Okay, well,
All right.
I've enjoyed it.
Well, thank you guys for joining
Thank
us. It's good to
Thank you.
see you.
Thank you. If I didn't
Bye.
read your comment from the chat, that just means I missed you. And folks, if you have any ideas for future programs like this, Natalie, can they just message us on Facebook or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'll put our email up as well. So thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it.
Bye.